Am I the antagonist for attempting to rehome my stepdaughter because she's a nuisance? I am a 38-year-old man who has been married to my 37-year-old wife for nearly 2 years. However, we have been together for a total of 4 years. Before our marriage, my wife brought her daughter, Lily, who is 15 years old, into the relationship. Lily was the result of a one-night stand during my wife's college years, and this situation was highly traumatic for her. After Lily was born, my wife's parents took care of her while my wife moved across the country to pursue her career and personal growth. Since then, there has been an ongoing struggle over the responsibility of caring for Lily. When Lily was 6, her paternal grandparents took her in. Then when she was 8, her paternal aunt became her caretaker. When she was 10, 12, the responsibility was shared between my wife and her parents. Since turning 12, my wife has been solely taking care of her. Lily and I both moved in with my wife around the same time, and at my wife's request, I tried to establish a bond with Lily. Initially, I was skeptical due to the number of different homes Lily had been shuffled through. Despite my fears, I persevered for the sake of my wife. However, I have been struggling significantly. In my opinion, Lily is manipulative and a habitual liar. Living with her has been terrible, and my wife turns a blind eye to her behavior due to guilt for not being there for her during her early years. Every day feels like a nightmare because Lily intentionally provokes everyone around her. I have never encountered a more conniving and vengeful child. Recently, Lily's father has been attempting to play a more active role in her life, but Lily has been resistant to the idea. He took her on a trip lately and has been pushing for full custody, which my wife vehemently opposes. She believes that this would disrupt Lily's life and asserts that as her mother, she knows what is best for her. A week ago, Lily's father dropped her off after their visit and asked me about the possibility of my wife reconsidering full custody. I told him that the chances were slim, but personally, I believed it would be in everyone's best interest. He then requested that I speak in his favor and try to convince my wife. A few days ago, I broached the subject with my wife, but she dismissed it. However, I persisted, perhaps my fault. In response, she snapped at me, accusing me of always hating Lily. She couldn't understand how a grown man could hold such a grudge against a child. She berated me for around 5 minutes, then stormed off, calling me an a-hole. Since then, she has been accusing me of various things to our family and friends. Most of them are on her side, and I don't understand what I did wrong. Am I the a-hole? Firstly, it's important to have empathy and understanding towards Lily's difficult upbringing and the trauma she has experienced. It's understandable that you may have had initial skepticism, but it appears that you have allowed those feelings to cloud your judgment and prevent you from forming a proper bond with her. It's unfair to brand her as manipulative, conniving, and vindictive without providing specific examples of her behavior. Additionally, your wife's guilt for not being there for Lily earlier in her life is a valid emotion. While her approach to parenting may not align with yours, it's important to support her and have open discussions about the best way to handle Lily's behavior rather than dismissing it. Suggesting to Lily's father that full custody might be best for everyone without discussing it with your wife beforehand was a breach of trust. It's essential to respect your wife's feelings and decisions as Lily's mother and work towards finding a solution together. Your wife's reaction, though heated and accusatory, may have been a result of built-up frustration and feeling attacked by your sudden attempt to advocate for full custody without proper communication. It's understandable that family and friends may be on her side because they are likely aware of the challenging circumstances surrounding Lily's upbringing. In order to rectify the situation, it's important to have a calm and honest conversation with your wife. Apologize for not effectively communicating your concerns and discuss ways in which both of you can address Lily's behavior and explore what might be in the best interest of the child moving forward. Seek therapy or counseling if necessary to navigate the complex dynamics of your blended family. Am I the antagonist for checking on and visiting my wife? I'm currently married and have a few children. My wife works in the medical field, so I don't get to see her very often. Tonight she was out with some friends, and at around 2 a.m., I texted her to ask if she planned on coming home that night. I was planning to leave early the next morning for something else. In my text, I also asked our mutual friend who was with her about her whereabouts. This is just how we communicate. When either of us asks about my wife, we refer to her as such or simply as her as a shorthand. My wife then responded that she was driving, which was fine. 45 minutes passed and she still hadn't returned. Just to provide context, the place she was coming from was about a 25-minute drive away. She had to drive through areas known for deer and drunk drivers. So I texted her again to check if everything was all right, but she didn't respond. I called her, but she didn't answer. A few more minutes went by and I sent her the following text. It's not a 45-minute drive. Is everything okay? Then my wife called me and started yelling at me. She accused me of constantly checking up on her and being too intrusive. I was really surprised and taken aback by her reaction. She also had an issue with the way I phrased my questions, using "where's my wife?" and "it's not a 45-minute drive." She interpreted them as possessive and overbearing, but that wasn't my intention at all. Let me explain why her job is relevant. Every now and then, I stop by her workplace briefly with a snack or drink, just to say hi and let her know that I'm thinking of her, even if I don't get to see her. This is because her love language is acts of service. We've had some issues in our relationship, so I've been trying to show her that I care through actions, which she has told me she responds well to. But now she threw all of that back at me, claiming that people at her work question whether I trust her and accusing me of checking up on her. It's important to note that until this moment, she had always seemed appreciative of my brief visits and clearly acknowledged that I was thinking of her. However, she suddenly twisted it into something negative. I mean, I hardly ever see her, and yet I'm trying my best to make this work and show her that I care. And for her to throw it in my face like that hurts a lot. I miss her, plain and simple. I told her this and expressed that even if I don't get to briefly see her when I stop by, the chance of seeing her is reason enough to make the drive. But she dismissed it as me being overbearing. I don't believe it was unreasonable for me to be concerned about her tonight, and it hurts deeply that my attempts to show her I care, such as stopping by to say hi, have been taken as something negative and thrown back at me. In an attempt to explain myself and apologize if she felt offended by my choice of words, I wrote her a letter. I slipped it under her door since we are sleeping separately tonight, and she told me to stay away from her angrily, which I responded to in a similar manner. It's the middle of the night, so I'm not sure what will happen next. You were genuinely concerned about your wife's safety and were simply checking in on her. Additionally, your efforts to show your wife that you care, such as stopping by with snacks or drinks, should not be seen as possessive or overbearing. Your intentions were to make her feel loved and supported. However, it is important to communicate openly and respectfully with your wife about your concerns and feelings rather than engaging in a heated argument. Leaving a letter for her was a good step, but it would be beneficial to also have a calm conversation to address these issues and understand each other's perspectives better. Remember, relationships require open and honest communication to work through challenges, so make sure to have a dialogue in order to resolve the conflicts and find a way to rebuild trust and understanding. Am I the antagonist for having a child-free wedding but inviting my niece? My fiancé and I have been engaged for 3 years, and we are now in the process of planning our wedding. We have collectively made the decision to have a child-free wedding, but I have encountered an issue regarding my niece, whom I will refer to as Flower for privacy reasons. Flower is a quiet and well-behaved 12-year-old girl. Since Flower and I share a close bond, I wanted her to be the flower girl at our wedding. However, some of my family members are unhappy with this decision because we had initially specified that the wedding would be child-free. They feel that I am showing favoritism towards Flower. However, my past experience with other weddings that allowed children revealed that they often displayed disinterest and caused disturbances. Many of these children are aged between 8 and 5, and their behavior can be disruptive. They become bored and start running around, while their parents fail to address the situation, dismissing it as normal playful behavior. I'm concerned about potential incidents occurring at my wedding due to the inability to control their children. My older sister has a 2-year-old baby, often referred to as a rainbow baby. She is upset that her baby cannot attend the wedding. However, her baby tends to be quite loud, and I would prefer to avoid any disruptive crying during the ceremony. I have previously attended weddings where children cried continuously and it was very annoying. My goal is for everyone, including myself and my fiancé, to have a pleasant experience at our wedding. My older sister argues that Flower does not deserve to attend the wedding. However, I have attended multiple events with Flower, and she genuinely enjoys weddings. Despite her usually reserved nature, she becomes more social during these occasions. I want her to feel comfortable and included at my wedding. My sister suggests replacing Flower with her friend's child as the flower girl. Unfortunately, I am not well acquainted with my sister's friend or her child. We have exchanged pleasantries and engaged in small talk during social events, but that is the extent of our interaction. Nevertheless, her friend has expressed no objection to Flower being the flower girl. Despite this, my mom's side of the family is siding with my sister, and they have been treating Flower poorly. Recently, they even excluded Flower from a trip to the Sanrio store, despite her love for Hello Kitty, and the fact that she had never visited a Sanrio store before. When she inquired about it, they dismissively responded, "Flower girls shouldn't be interested in childish things." It is worth noting that Flower is 12 years old, and I believe she is old enough to understand and act appropriately in a wedding setting. It's your wedding, and you have the right to decide on the guest list and the specific roles you want people to have, including your niece being the flower girl. Your decision to have a child-free wedding is completely valid, and it's unfair for your family to accuse you of favoritism. You have provided logical reasons for not wanting young children at your wedding, such as their potential to disrupt the event or cause incidents. It's understandable that you want to create an environment where everyone, including you and your fiancé, can enjoy the celebration without distractions. Your sister's argument that her friend's child should replace your niece as the flower girl seems unfounded, since you don't know that child well and your niece has expressed her excitement about being part of your wedding. Your sister's friend's opinions should not take precedence over yours. It's unfortunate that your family is treating your niece poorly and excluding her from activities. She deserves to be included and supported. Am I the antagonist for not letting my daughter watch the Attack on Titan? My eldest daughter, who is 17 years old, likes the show The Attack on Titan. I will call her Ava. Last Sunday, she asked if we could get the Crunchyroll streaming service so that she could watch the finale of it live when it aired. Initially, I said no, but she kept asking. She didn't drop the issue and explained it was the show's finale. It was the biggest show on television. All her friends were watching, etc. On Monday, Ava continued to text non-stop about Crunchyroll. She lives with my ex-wife during the week. And I eventually agreed to subscribe for a month if she got above 90% on the AP biology exam she had on Tuesday. Friday rolled around, and she texted that she got an A on her exam and asked for Crunchyroll. When I checked Power School myself, I saw she got 81%. I texted her this, to which she responded that the 81% would be curved to 90%, which is clearly not true. Ava arrived at my house Saturday morning and immediately asked for Crunchyroll. I told her no, and she got upset. She said this was a special occasion and important to her, etc. When my answer remained no, she started crying, which I find a bit ridiculous over a show, and locked herself in her bedroom. At dinner time, I knocked on her door. She didn't answer. I threatened to unlock the door, no answer, so I did, and she wasn't in the room. I don't know when, but at some point she left my house. I immediately called my ex-wife, who hadn't seen her, and we flipped out. Ava hid her location on Find My iPhone. We called the parents of her friends, no dice. My ex-wife and I then each called our neighbors, which is how we discovered Ava was at a house down the street from mine of 2 boys she babysat. We learned their family had a Crunchyroll subscription, and Ava had texted asking if she could watch, and they said yes. It was mortifying to pick her up and explain to this family that Ava had left without permission. They were watching The Attack on Titan when we arrived. I wanted her to return home immediately, but the couple explained the show was, in fact, quite popular and ended that night. They were actually watching with Ava and seemed sympathetic. I wasn't in any hurry to seem like a bad person in front of this family, so I agreed to let her stay as long as she came back home right after. She did as I instructed and tried to evade punishment by saying how happy she was to have watched the show. Still, I grounded her and took away her phone for the weekend, the latter of which made her upset again because apparently now she had to go online and discuss the show with her internet friends and look at memes about it. When I didn't relent, she said she'd refuse to stay at my house for the rest of the year. I still took her phone and she's ignored me all day. I feel the punishment is justified. She lied and ran away and hid her location. But she finds it incredibly unfair, and the neighbors seem to agree that the Attack on Titan's finale was important. Am I the asshole? Your daughter Ava was pushy and dishonest about her exam grade, as well as leaving without permission. However, your reaction was also extreme. Locking her out, threatening to unlock her door, and taking away her phone for the entire weekend may have been excessive punishments. It would have been more appropriate to have a calm and open conversation with Ava about her behavior and the consequences of her actions. It is important to teach her responsibility and the importance of honesty, but it is equally important to maintain a healthy and respectful parent-child relationship. Additionally, it is not fair to involve the neighbors in your personal issues or to use them as a reference for what is important. The opinion of the neighbors should not decide the punishment for your daughter. In the future, try to communicate more effectively with Ava and establish clear boundaries and expectations. It is essential to find a balance between discipline and understanding. Am I the antagonist for not telling my boyfriend I own the building we live in? When I was 18, my dad gave me a house with 2 stories. I am extremely grateful for this gift, even though we're not upper class. My dad bought the house for a cheap price a long time ago. It used to belong to his grandmother's cousin. I know that getting this house was a huge privilege, and I will always be thankful for it. The layout of the house is like an apartment, but it's actually a house. Each story has its own separate entry, kitchen, and bathroom. I live upstairs and I rent out the downstairs. My boyfriend, who is 25, moved in with me about 3 months ago. We've been together for 6 months. I haven't asked him to pay rent or contribute to utilities. The only thing he helps with is groceries, and we split that cost. I haven't told him that I own the building because it's not something I tell many people. If someone asks, I will tell them I own it, but if they assume I'm a renter, I'll let them believe that. We haven't talked about me being the landlord, the renter downstairs, or the building's owner. Last Tuesday, the renter came to tell me that her freezer had stopped working. I answered the door and my boyfriend overheard our conversation. I went downstairs to take a look, and we decided that she would buy a new freezer, send me the receipt, and I would reimburse her. She was very grateful for this solution. When I went back upstairs, my boyfriend asked if the freezer could be fixed. I told him no, but that she was going to buy a new one and I would pay for it. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked why I would pay for her freezer. I explained that since I'm her landlord and the freezer was there when she started renting, I felt responsible for the cost. He couldn't believe it and started yelling at me, calling me evil for hiding this information from him. He said he couldn't believe he was with someone who was a landlord and that landlords only care about money and would rather have people be homeless than offer affordable rent. The downstairs area has 1 kitchen, 1 bathroom, and 4 other rooms, and I charge $500 in rent. I understand that many people have had bad experiences with landlords, but I do my best to be a good one. He demanded that I give him 50% of the rent money I make, or else he would think just as poorly of me. Was I wrong for not telling him? He hasn't spoken to me since Tuesday, and I've apologized, but he hasn't responded at all. It seems like you didn't intentionally hide the fact that you own the building from your boyfriend, but rather it just didn't come up in conversation. It's not something that you are obligated to share at the beginning of a relationship. Additionally, you are already contributing your fair share by covering the cost of the renter's freezer, even though technically it is your responsibility as the landlord. Your boyfriend's reaction seems unfair and extreme. Jumping to the conclusion that all landlords are money-hungry and heartless is an unfair generalization. It's important for him to have an open mind and understand that not all landlords fit that stereotype. His demand for 50% of the rent money is unreasonable considering he has been living there rent-free. It's understandable that you would want to protect your financial interests and use the rental income to maintain the property and cover any expenses that may arise. It is important for you both to have an open and honest conversation about your expectations, financial situations, and feelings. Communication and understanding are key in any relationship. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to change my hair unless I was paid to? I have thick curly hair. It falls between type 3A and 3B on the hair texture scale. For those unfamiliar with the scale, this means my curls are well-defined with some spiral and ringlet shapes. People with similar hair textures often hear comments like, "You'd look so pretty with straight hair. Why don't you straighten it?" Personally, I don't like straight hair on myself. Additionally, the process of straightening my hair takes a long time. It typically takes me a minimum of 2 hours due to both the thickness and length of my hair. I embrace and take pride in my curls. I usually only get a blowout when I have a haircut or for special occasions. Among my friends, Elizabeth has always wanted me to straighten my hair. She has offered to do it for me multiple times, but I have always declined. Until recently, she had never actually seen me with straight hair because I haven't had a haircut since we met and haven't attended any formal events during that time. Last weekend, Elizabeth got married and I was one of her bridesmaids. She informed us that we were free to style our hair and do our makeup as we wished. Knowing that she preferred a straight hair look on me, I offered to get a blowout for the occasion. She was thrilled with the idea. Since we were responsible for our own hair and makeup costs, I went to a salon a couple of hours before we were supposed to meet and got my hair done at a considerable expense. Though I wasn't completely in love with the outcome, I convinced myself that I was doing it for my friend. When I arrived at the venue, Elizabeth immediately appeared displeased with how my hair looked. I reminded her that this was the look she had wanted, and even showed her previous pictures of me with straight hair. She claimed it looked different this time. It's worth noting that Elizabeth's own hair and makeup team confirmed that the result would have been the same if they had styled it. Therefore, it wasn't the fault of the salon I went to. Elizabeth then insisted that I needed to fix my hair. She wanted one of the other bridesmaids who was doing her own hair to curl mine. I asked if she was going to cover the cost of getting it blow-dried again, to which she replied no. I firmly stated that I wasn't willing to be out the money I'd already paid for my hair, considering the dress, makeup, and other various expenses I'd already covered. She accused me of being ridiculous. I had spent $150 on my hair, and when combined with everything else, it added up. Eventually, Elizabeth's mom intervened and gave me the $150, allowing the other bridesmaid to curl my hair. Elizabeth's mom proceeded to berate me, going so far as to bring me nearly to tears. The remaining part of the wedding proceeded without any issue. I was willing to let the incident go, especially as Elizabeth seemed to move on from it. However, I later discovered that some of the bridesmaids believed I had been difficult. When I expressed that I felt Elizabeth's mom had been too harsh, they called me a brat and defended her actions, claiming she was just trying to protect her daughter's special day. Am I the asshole? You are not the asshole in this situation. Elizabeth has been pressuring you for years to straighten your hair, even though you've made it clear that you don't like it, and it takes a long time for you to do. You compromised for her wedding and got your hair blown out, only for her to express her disapproval and demand that you fix it without offering to cover the cost. You had already paid a significant amount for your hair and other expenses related to the wedding, so it's understandable that you didn't want to be out that money. Elizabeth's mom's reaction was uncalled for and excessive, as she should have recognized that you were not in the wrong. It's unfair for the other bridesmaids to label you as difficult or a brat when you were simply standing up for yourself and your financial interests. In the end, it seems like you handled the situation maturely and let it go for the sake of the wedding. It's unfortunate that some of the bridesmaids have a negative opinion of you without understanding the full context. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.